Alright everyone, today for brand new players to the game, I'm going to answer once and for all, what is the best default deck that they start you off with in the game? So if we go, for example, into rank mode, let's go ahead and go to the deck selection. These are the 7 default decks you get. This is going to be the final video that I make discussing these. I've played every single one in ranked. I've even got all the way up to D0. I'm going to go ahead and ding up to D1 in this video. I'm sure I could even keep taking it quite a bit further because a few of them are actually pretty decently strong. I feel like even playing against a bunch of people using lots of legendaries in their deck, you can still keep getting wins with just the straight up default decks. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm just going to build my own deck. Like, what do I care about default decks? This is kind of too boring and uninteresting. Well, actually, I think this is still fairly important even after you start opening packs, because if we go to the decks, let's say I want to actually create a deck. This is basically one of the first times I'm going here to create a deck. Let's create a new deck. And let's say I wanted to create, for example, an Abyss craft deck. If I go in here, the reason why even after you start opening packs, the strength of these default decks that they give you to start with may actually still be important, because let's look at the cards I have available to actually craft an Abyss craft deck. And I've been playing for several days. I've opened a daily pack every day, and they made me open a couple packs. I've even gotten 2 legendary out of the packs that they've made me open so far. And if I look at the options for the cards I can use to craft an Abyss craft deck, okay, starting from bottom left, Lilith, Reaper's Deathflash, Indomitable Fighter, every single card so far, except for the Ruby Greedy Cherub. Okay, I've got 2 of those. That's the first time there's actually a new card for me to use, because most of the cards that you start with in the game are coming from these default decks until you start opening a pretty decent number of packs. And so what that means is the base starting strength of these default decks really is going to matter, especially since you only get to choose 1 starter deck in the game. The actually pretty decent starter deck that you get to choose one of, you only get to choose 1 for one of the classes. So 1 of the 7 classes, you're going to get to start with a default starter deck. Now, the more packs you open, obviously, it's going to matter less and less. But yeah, this video is just for those starter beginner players to answer the following question: which one of these is the best? And let me go ahead and show you a little gameplay to go ahead and demonstrate, in particular, the 2 that I think are basically tied for number 1. And I want to start out this video with Portal Craft. The Portal Craft default starter deck. This is the one that I think they have forced you to play first at the beginning as well. Big surprise that I'm going to choose that, because most games, when they force you to start playing a deck, they probably want the deck to be decently strong. All right, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and also continue my 0 to Hero series. We're going to tick up this D0 to D1 in this video, and we're starting it off with Portal Craft. Let's go ahead and get into a match while I talk through the strength of this deck. All right, so heading into this ranked battle here, after playing all these different default decks, man, I am so happy to be back on this one. Some of them are just absolutely terrible, but look what we've got in this starter hand. And also, we're up against Runecraft. If this person is playing Runecraft in any way, shape, or form that's not like a pretty heavily upgraded deck, I honestly think Runecraft is absolutely terrible for starting the game out. So we may have a pretty decent chance of winning, but let's see how strong our opponent's deck is here to find out. All right, we got the 2/2 spell boosting the hand. We've got a choice between the Indomitable Fighter, but it's usually pretty much always best on that turn 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the Puppet Theater. I can't really think of any advantage to playing the 1/1 this turn, so I think I will just hold it back and wait till I get a second one so I can go ahead and kill this off next turn. All right, they got another 2/2 spell booster, so they've spell boosted whatever's going on in their hand. We're going to find out how much of a problem that is later. Let's go ahead and kill one of these off since we're able to. Why not? And then we're going to end up playing that fighter as a 5/5. This guy's always pretty decently solid in these default decks on turn 4 as a 5/5. I still wonder, I probably said this a million times, but I still wonder if this Indomitable Fighter is going to end up being playable at all once people start upgrading their decks. But yeah, okay, so coming back to this Portal Craft deck, everybody, why is this so strong? Well, for starters, you've got this Mecha Cavalier. This card is absolutely insanely good for a default deck. It's basically one of the best, just general strongest default deck cards, period, whatsoever. And that's going to be kind of the theme of this Portal Craft deck, is just the average general strength overall of these cards. This Kitty Cannoneer, honestly, is pretty solidly good. And one of the kind of commonalities of this deck, honestly, is the fact that you basically get to just kind of keep trading off stuff over and over in these early games.
Don't forget to review.
And all the while, as you keep doing all these 1-for-1 trades, you're kind of building up a slow kind of control style advantage. Like this, you're getting a bunch of these little gears as you're just trading off everything 1-for-1. So if they don't have really strong legendary cards, like for example, the one that's being played against me right now as we speak, this is quite a strong legendary here. I'm guessing one of the stronger legendaries in the game. I think this dies at the end of the turn, right? At the end of your opponent's turn, destroy this card. So actually, in the end, this is just going to literally be a 6/6 for them. Not really that great, I feel like, to be honest, in the end. And since I'm going to go ahead and get the Super Evolve next turn, well, we're just going to go ahead and see the brute strength of this deck right here. Perfect showcase match to see just 2 of these Mecha Cavaliers may be able to take this match down by themselves. Let's find out here in a second. All right, so we're going to go ahead and play the Leah, which is in all of these. And I could potentially actually play this Adventurer's Guild. Since I'm going to play this next turn and Super Evolve it, the Adventurer's Guild will let me attack with the 4/4 next turn. I'm not really sure how good that is versus just getting a 3/3 out there. I guess if I get this 3/3 out there, the 6/6 will probably attack into it and I won't really be able to do much about it. So you know what, let's just go ahead and try this Adventurer's Guild out and see what happens. And we'll end our turn. So yeah, so why is the Portalcraft deck so good and potentially the best #1 best default deck? Again, it's just the overall average strength of the cards in the deck. And then it's all these 1-for-1s like these Kitty Cannoneers. A lot of these other default decks, they're not really getting that much value in the early game, but with this Kitty Cannoneer, you know, again, you're pretty much always trading 1-for-1. They're all, you know, there's all these random 2/2s and 3/3s. Okay, well, you just play this, you 1-for-1, you get a little bit of advantage because this gear can end up turning into a Striker Artifact. Striker Artifact is that 5/1 rush card. It's as you can see here, rush 5/1, just in case you didn't know. Super good. So you're going to end up with just a bunch of random stray 5/1s that are essentially just straight up removal cards. All right, everybody, and here it is. They got a 4/4 and a 6/6. Here we go. Here it comes. We're getting our Mecha Cavalier out here. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be, again, enough to win this match, depending on how good my opponent's deck is, but we are certainly going to find out. Let's go ahead and give this other one rush here. So we're going to engage to give that rush. That'll allow that to trade off with their 4/4. We're going to get a free kill here and take no damage because we're super evolved. All right, we've got 2 play points left, but we got nothing in our hand that we can use it on, so we're going to go ahead and pass the turn. Yeah, like even that card at the very beginning, like for example, even this card that produces 3 of these 1/1 puppets for 2 mana, I still think that's a really good card as well. All right, finally, we've got this Mechanized Beast. A lot of the potential wins you can get with this deck, if you just straight up go into ranked with this default deck, you can actually just grind opponents out. And because this has Bane and Ward, for example, in the Abysscraft deck, they have a card that's almost the same card, but I think is actually probably potentially worse depending on the situation, because this is actually a 4/9 with Ward, and you're pretty much always going to probably like evolve or super evolve this. Yeah, I guess it just depends on the situation, but still really, really strong. All right, and here our opponent's Runecraft is playing this Blaze Destroyer. I've talked about this in my videos before. This card is just not good enough, I'm afraid. It's totally fine, totally solid, but just not good enough. So how do we want to go ahead and kill it? If we had one more, if we just had one more Puppeteer, we would really be in good shape because we could go ahead and super evolve this Mecha Cavalier, which I'm pretty certain is still going to end up being the play. 5. Okay, we're going to have 8 mana, so we can actually use this Kitty Cat. That's exactly what we're going to do. All right, everybody, here we go. 5 mana. Do another super evolution. So strong. 15/15 worth, again, of attack and toughness, strength, whatever it's called in this game. So that's going to deal 7. So we will go ahead and put out this Kitty Cannoneer to deal the remaining damage here. Still so good. I think that Kitty Cannoneer is so good. All right, go ahead and finish this off. Now here, is there any reason why we should go ahead and lead this 2/2, or should we just go ahead and, I think, given the strength of my board, let's just go ahead and go face. I don't quite know the deck well enough to know if it's right to leave this on the board or not. So yeah, it's possible that could have been a tiny mistake. Hard to say, I'm not totally sure. But yeah, everybody, so what on earth is my opponent now going to do against such a strong board start for me? And as you can tell, all right, they are playing an upgraded deck. We are playing a default deck. Oh no, and that's the power of the upgraded decks. All right, well, they actually finally had something that was able to deal with it, and suddenly we are back on an even playing field here. 11 damage to my whole board. So yeah, with these default decks, if the opponent's deck is upgraded enough, obviously it's still going to be tough to go ahead and get those wins, but it is possible. So just remember that. All right, and here's pretty powerful. This is where that Striker Artifact comes in. Let's go ahead and create one of these Striker Artifacts, and that's a... Again, these are basically just kind of like removal spells. All right, we're going to go ahead and play it, and it's got 5, so boom, removal right there. All right, so then with the mana we've got left over, I'll just play it out like this. Once again, Kitty Cannoneer, very nice value here. Still getting half of a Striker Artifact. Basically 1-for-1 removal plus a half a Striker Artifact. Quite good, I think, still. All right, they've got a Foresight, which basically just doesn't really do anything. They have probably put themselves now in a little bit of an advantage versus us, but I hope that this match, I think I'm gonna go ahead and run with this match in the video. I think this does a pretty good job of showing how we were still able to kind of not exactly go toe-to-toe with our opponent's deck.
None shall escape the lash of my flame!
Defeat is not an option. Watch over you.
but still kind of able to hang in there. And, you know, to be honest, I still think I may be able to win this match. All right, everybody, let's see if I can still win this. This legendary, my opponent keeps doing it and evolving it. This 5/5 literally doesn't do anything because they keep evolving it, and it's just going to end up dying. This is literally just a 3/3 that spell boosts their hand. That doesn't really do anything. So we still may actually be able to grind out this match. Possibly. Now, the one unfortunate thing is because this does have ward, we aren't able to actually interact with their board. So this is actually getting a little bit scary as far as us potentially dying here. So I think we're going to be forced to play out this mechanized beast with ward, probably buff it up a little bit, and hopefully that'll at least buy us some time that we need. So let's go ahead and do it. Now, if they do have a nice removal spell for this to get rid of it, then yeah, we do die, but it is what it is. The evolve's just not really going to do anything for us this turn, so I think this is going to be enough, unless we wanted to be really extra safe and add a little bit of extra toughness on this, but I think I'm going to kind of take my chances, play just a tiny bit risky here. Actually, okay, you know what? I made a mistake because they've got the super evolve. That's going to bring this up to a 9/9. That's going to be able to kill this, and it won't be able to stick around. But they would have still been able to kill with the 3/3, so yeah, I guess it's still fine, honestly. All right, there goes the 3/3, spell boosting their hand up. Okay, well. Oh man, we got another legendary. Y'all, can I actually possibly win this? All right, what are we going to have here? We've got a 13/13. And oh my goodness gracious, this is just crazy. Oh, wow, that actually becomes a 13/13 attack phase. This is my first time actually seeing that. All right, everybody. So that's a Portal Craft deck. I hope this at least, yes, this particular match wasn't a win, but I feel like it did a pretty good job of showcasing the match. Look how many legendaries it took my opponent to beat me, and we were still kind of hanging in there. So imagine, you know, playing against lower ranks where people still haven't filled their deck up totally crammed with legendaries yet. And just taking a final peek at this deck, Mecha Cavalier, super crazy strong. Mechanized Beast can totally do damage and keep you hanging in there, and it's got ward. Bullet from Beyond is absolutely fantastic. Kitty Cannoneer trades and gets value. Puppet Lancer and Puppet Theater, both fantastic cards in my opinion. Honestly, great. Electric Whiplash, totally solid. You get to start upgrading. You get to constantly do all these 1-for-1s while you're still building extra value, upgrading these little gears. You've got the Mecha Cavalier being literally just a 15/15 for 5 mana when you super evolve it. Highly recommend starting out with this deck when you're starting the game, and you can get wins in ranked. Sooner or later, it's going to start getting outclassed, and obviously you're going to have to start upgrading it like everybody else. I would say maybe around rank D0, D1 is probably where you may start running into some difficulty. Like I said, I've only played default decks all the way up to this rank I'm at currently, and I'm still going to ding this D1 with the final deck that we're going to play in this video, all right? And the final deck that we're going to play in this video, I would say it's either a tie with Portal Craft, but you know what, to be honest, I think this is the #1 best default deck in the game, and that is going to be Dragoncraft. So let's finish this final ranked push to get rank D1. All right, everybody, let's talk about Dragoncraft as we go into this final match here. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan away some of these higher end cards, but before I do, why is Dragoncraft so strong in my opinion? It's because of cards like this Battleforged Dragonkeeper. For 7 mana, you get a 5/5 and another 5/5 with Intimidate, and it's even got the 6-drop 5/10 ward. This card in particular is absolutely insane, but even the 5/10 ward has basically won me matches against like really aggressive decks in these lower ranks. The average card strength of the Dragoncraft deck is just really strong. I mean, even the Searing Fire Newt is like really solid for a 2/2. Let's go ahead and play it out to get a little early pressure going on here. Then you've got the Strike of the Dragon Newt. Select an enemy follower and deal it 2 damage. If you're in overflow, which means you have 7 total mana or play points, I guess, deal 4 damage. This card is so good in my opinion. I guess I'm gonna go face a little bit. So, when you compare this Dragoncraft deck to the Portal Craft deck, how do they compare? Well, in my opinion, I think that this Dragoncraft deck is the slightly superior deck and thus the best default deck in the game. And the reason is because if you basically just go through all the cards in both decks and you analyze like kind of just the general strength of all the cards, I think they're kind of comparable to each other. They both have a lot of really good, solid, just generally decent cards. Go ahead and play this guy out and go ahead and get an attack in here. Another 3 to the face. Things are going pretty nice so far. Debatably, I should have went ahead and just killed that 2/2 with my 3/3, but whatever. So yeah, just the basic general average strength of the cards, I would say are comparable between the two decks. But the key difference is that this deck is actually able to close out matches. Whereas the Portal Craft deck, it really struggles. You know, as you keep advancing in the ranks, one of the things you notice is that people are able to just randomly hit each other in the face for like, you know, 10 damage at a time, just totally out of nowhere. And this deck, for example, it has just a generic 6 damage to the face card, which is super, super good. I think we may actually be able to aggro out our opponent. What does this do again? Summon a Holy Falcon. I think it's a 2/2 with Storm, if I remember right. All right, since we're kind of stuck on 5 mana, I'm going to go ahead and use this out. We're going to kill this for 2. Go ahead and finish this off here. Oops, I totally made a huge mistake. I should have went ahead and just played this probably and evolved it out, but whatever. Go ahead and get everybody in play here. And I'm all right just going to the face, I think. You know what? We're going to go ahead and do 1 evolution here. And that way, we're already setting ourselves up for having them low enough to just burn them out with the 6 damage to the face. And that's the key difference here, again, between this and Portalcraft. Portalcraft doesn't really have a lot of ways to just burn the opponent's face out to just completely kill them. And all right, everybody, well, we're already going to be winning here, it looks like, this round. I don't know what this card does. Is it insane? Deal 3 damage to all enemy followers. Okay, yep, pretty darn good. And then they're going to go ahead and get that attack to trade. All right, yeah, that was pretty solid. And they were able to heal up for 3. All right, everybody, this card, absolutely insane. We're going to play it next turn. Let's go ahead and just start with the 5/10. Yeah, I've been really impressed. Just if you want to go ahead and take this into the early ranks, really impressed with this 5/10 for 6 ward, to be honest. I really thought it was going to be absolutely terrible, but it's really been not too bad for me. But yeah, this Battleforged Dragonkeeper, this is going to be one of the MVP all-stars of this deck. For 7 mana, you're going to get 2 5/5s, but one of them is going to have Intimidate, which is just so strong when you're starting the game out. And fortunately, our opponent just burned the card that Esperanza has that kills everybody on the field. So when we play this Battleforged Dragonkeeper out, I'm kind of hoping maybe it'll actually end up sticking around. Let's find out. But yeah, actually, this is a perfect game to just talk one more time about this, just burning out the opponent's face. There's just so many games that you're going to end up playing where you're going to end up with boards like this where everybody keeps kind of clearing off the board over and over again. And the person who's going to win is basically the person who's able to deal that last, like, you know, random 9 damage that I need to deal to my opponent's face. And some decks have it and some decks don't with the default decks when you're starting the game out. In this deck, well, it does have it. Look at Warrior of the Deep, deal 6 damage to the enemy leader. You're going to win matches with that. You're also going to win matches with this little Battleforged Dragonkeeper right here because of this 5/5 Intimidate Dragon that you get. Really quite nice. Because a lot of the times, especially against starting out, the opponents don't always have as many ways of just dealing straight up creature destruction to kill the 5/5. All right, what does this card do again? Like that right there, that 6 damage. Once I learned these decks better and learned these cards better, I didn't know if I needed to play around something for like how much damage. If I would have known they had this 6 damage, for example, then I would have actually probably played around that. All right, and this is going to be completely ridiculous, but let's see what happens here. I don't know why so many of these matches I play, I end up with this 13/13 Elephant Boy. Let's see what this Esperanza deck has to do with that. I would say just this one card alone, the fact that it's got Warrior of the Deep for dealing 6 damage, that alone, to me, puts it at least a little bit over the edge of the Portalcraft deck. Because as you play against these better decks like we're playing against now that have all these different legendaries, and they're just able to just constantly stall and find ways to make it so that you can't win the game immediately. Okay, things are actually looking pretty good here, only dealing 3 damage. We got the Detective's Lens in hand. All right, we're going to close this game out. And that's me showing you that literally they can play something like this, basically a legendary every turn, and you can still win games. What does this do? Draw Amulet? Not going to do it. Everybody, I still think this is one of the worst decks to start out with in the game. That's why I'm making these videos. I just made a video talking about don't start with this deck probably. Just not quite strong enough. Detective's Lens is going to do it for us. We had so many options though in this match, but there you have it. And I didn't even get to show you in this match what is, in my opinion, the strongest card in this deck. Sometimes you get some extra points for doing evolutions and super evolutions. Oh, except that I can't. All right, I'll just play this other one out and super evolve it just to make sure I get my rank points. All right, everybody, and there you have it. That is a win with Dragon. Playing against basically a barrage of like almost every turn legendary back to back to back. Decently strong deck for our opponent. But Dragon is just that strong that you can just win through legendaries. And, ooh, we didn't quite tick to the D0, but I tell you what, I'll go ahead and show you me ticking that D0 right after this. And let me show you one more final thing with this deck. The other absolute MVP, probably the #1 strongest card in this deck, is this Draconic Berserker. It is absolutely insane. I won't be surprised at all if every Dragoncraft deck ends up running this. Of course, this deck has 3 of it, which is why, again, I think this is the #1 best default deck in the game. If the gameplay looks fun of kind of ramping up using like this Dragon Sign to gain max play play points and then playing these bigger, stronger cards, and you also want a deck that's just generically powerful, then absolutely you can just start with this and you can start upgrading along the way. You can start with Portalcraft, start upgrading along the way. This Dragoncraft Berserker, it basically clears your opponent's board. Super Evolve, deal damage to all enemy followers, and it deals 4 damage. You can also just evolve it just to deal 4 damage. So both of these options are absolutely insane, and it's got great stats. Absolutely incredible card right here. And let me go ahead and do one quick shout out. I want to give an honorable mention. Let's say for some reason you just don't want to play either of these decks. I want to give an honorable mention actually to Swordcraft. It has kind of the same general thing going on, where I just told you one of the main reasons that I like the Dragoncraft deck is because it can actually finish your opponent off. The Swordcraft deck has this Centaur Centurion. It's going to deal basically 7 to the face when you end up in those board states where there's just nothing on the field and you just need to finish them off with that random, 6, 7, 8 damage. All right, this is 10 damage to the face if they've got nothing on the board for 8 mana, because you play it for 8, super evolve it up to a 10, and Storm lets you hit directly to the face with it. And then this deck also has, I would say, a bit lower average power level cards, but still good enough to get some early damage in, especially in the low ranks. And then you've also got this rusty Luxcard Trickster, and this kind of does the same thing where when you super evolve it, you get 2 more copies of it and you give them Storm if they're both in your deck. That's going to be basically 6 damage to the face. You can also use this Ancestral Crown to buff guys that come out. So that could be like 6, 7, 8, and then go ahead and super evolve one of those. That's 11 damage once again to the face. So this deck also has that ability to, if you can just ping your opponent a few times, and it's got multiple ways to bring out like extra dudes with the Royal Coachman. This guy can attack face quickly. I would put this deck as A tier, and I would put these other 2 decks as S tier, with, like I said, the conclusion of this video, Dragoncraft wins it #1. And so also when you're thinking about decks that you want to start building from these default decks, you could easily just start slowly upgrading any of these 3 decks really. And I think you're going to be served well. And that's going to be the conclusion, everybody, of me sticking strictly exclusively to these default decks to rank up. I think I'm going to call it D1 is going to be the rank where I think things are getting a little too challenging, where the default decks are going to kind of have run their course. I said I'd try to take them until I feel like you can't really take them that much farther. I think hitting D1 is a good stopping point, and we're going to be ready to go ahead and start upgrading these. Let me go ahead and show you me hitting that D1 still with these default decks, and then we'll call it.
Special assignment today.
All right, everybody, and I told you, I told you with this deck, average strength of the cards, absolutely crazy. Here we are in the very next game. I'm going to show you just a couple quick clips from this game. As you can see, look at this. Opponent starting out strong with some legendaries. Of course, we're just playing a regular old default deck, but look at the power of our hand. This card's absolutely ridiculously strong. It's so stupid how good this card is. And here's one of my favorite things to do. I love super evolving this, hoping they basically can't do anything about it. Go ahead and swing in, get a huge hit there, hit face. And already here, by the way, Runecraft is terrible. If you watch my videos, I've been saying it over and over. This person wouldn't be making this mistake of playing Runecraft. Even so, they're still able to hit us for 8 with everything. And look, we still got this guy out here. Not bad at all. They've almost run out of cards. We've got another one of these 5/10s we can throw out there. And this Draconic Berserker, it's just absolutely ridiculously good. All right, so let's play a few more turns out and see how this match ends. I'm feeling very good about this one being the D1 ding match.
What honor is there in solitude?
Witness my kung fu!
I am the scale. Crush their bag.
Pardon my language.
This homework's too hard. May wings be at your back.
All right, don't forget about that dragon sign that you can use that to end up drawing a card. And what did I say, everybody? All we need is that last couple points of damage. If we had drawn into that 6 damage to the face, we could have already won this match this turn, because our opponent stumbled a little bit this turn with all this spell boost stuff that they were building up and refilling their hand back up.
Crush their bag.
Open thine eyes, traitor.
On to the next round.
Good. How can you stand heaven's hubris?
Uh-oh. All right, apparently this is not going to be the D1 ding after all. Oh boy, Ruler. Oh my gosh, 10. How did they get the 10 mana back? I missed that part.
You're done for.
Even heaven sins.
I always knew this day would come.
All right, everybody, we still would have won this match if we could have just drawn that one single card to deal the 6 damage to the face. Just want to point that out.
Steel against steel. One strike fatality. Give me a challenge.
And even with that said, look at what's happening here. We got this out, everybody. We're gonna engage this, give this the ability to attack, deal 1 damage. Okay, I would have potentially actually won this match. Wait. Okay, yep, I still can't win. Oh, I screwed up. Oh, I ran out of time. Dang it.
A journey of 1,000 miles.
Oh, it was so close. Dang, it was so close. I think I could have actually won. Wow, I could have actually won that game. At that one point, I should have evolved the turn earlier. I actually had that win. That's crazy. Should have went for it. All right, as is tradition, before the final match of the video, we got a free daily card pack. Let's open it up, and let's see if we get anything good for our free-to-play Zero to Hero run. What are we going to get? Let's see, and we might even talk about a couple of the new cards. Well, pretty much all of them are new. Now, this is actually pretty amazing. This Zell Wind Reader. Wow, seems amazing to me. Super Evolve, select another allied follower on the field and give it Storm. I'm pretty much definitely going to build a deck around this because this is actually randomly my 3rd one. All of the bronzes are all new in this pack. And then I got a silver and it's my 3rd copy of it. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Oh, a couple of these are animated as well. Premium cards. Let's see what this one does. Fanfare, Reanimate 4. Okay, yeah, this guy actually seems halfway decent. And then, yep, the Ruby Greedy Cherub. I feel like a lot of people are going to keep playing this for a long time. Medical Grade Assassin is fantastic. This card's been played against me about 1,000,000 times. Let's look at one more. Let's look at this Fledgling Dragon Slayer. Ooh, Dragoncraft again. Fanfare, select an enemy follower on the field and destroy it. This can't be too bad, right? I guess it'll kind of depend on the meta. Let's find out. All right, I'm pretty happy with this. I got this 3rd Zell Wind Reader. That's good enough for me, honestly. All right, here we are again up against a upgraded deck. They've already played 1 legendary and a bunch of other upgraded cards. We're in the default deck and I'm feeling like possibly another win here once again. This match is a little bit more challenging. There's a lot of options, but here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the Draconic Berserker. Gonna actually just do a regular evolve here.
Witness my kung fu.
Killing off the 5/3. I'm able to get in with this. I can still keep a hold of the strike, which is really nice. Go ahead and play everything out on my board here. All right, and then we're gonna get this Battleforged Dragon Keeper out, 2 super evolutions, and this is how I'm gonna hope to win it. And then we've got that 6 damage to the face. All right, I think this is gonna be the one. Let's see what happens here. All right, what do they got here? Summon a Fortifier artifact. That is not going to do it. Yep, that's not going to do it. In fact, I think we can just win next turn, everybody. All right, this is it. Already getting another win with the Dragon. Default deck, everybody. Playing against upgraded decks with legendaries. And, well, it is just not enough to keep down this default Dragon deck. How about that? Dealing that 6 damage to the face. I told y'all, you got to have that ability to finish out that match with a little bit of direct damage or some kind of storm or something like that. All right, and there you have it. That is it. That is going to ding us to rank D1. Made it all the way with just the default decks. You saw me, everybody, the whole way through. Check out my Zero to Hero series, everybody, if you want to see this journey and if you want to see it all the way to the end. That is it. Rank D0 is done. We are in rank D1. And with that, y'all, that is a wrap on this video. Stay tuned. If you want to see me go ahead and start actually upgrading these decks with the cards I'm going to be opening from packs, I'm going to walk you through every step of the way on my climb from the bottom to the very highest rank in the game, completely free to play. Come on the journey with me, everybody. Subscribe, comment, like, yada yada. See you in the next video.